Hey, here I am. Sorry it took me a minute. If you're watching this after the fact, you have no idea that it did take me a minute. But I was interviewing someone who was in Singapore and it was 10 o'clock p.m. And so I wanted to get it in before they maybe had to leave and go to sleep, which is what happens when you are all the way across the world. Uh, there's a quote I love so much from the band, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. They have a song called Can't Stop. And there's a quote I love so much from that song, and it's been in my head a lot. And it goes around the idea of, if you're failing, if things aren't going just right and whatnot, there's a quote I want you to think about, and it's something Anthony Kiedis said, and it's complete the motion if you stumble. Now, for all I know, he just said that, because it rhymed with what he was saying in the song Can't Stop. I like to pretend it's a lot more spiritually connected than that. But he said, complete the motion if you stumble. What I've learned from watching entertainers, professional entertainers, is that if you watch a real pro perform, if they mess a line up in a song, they just keep singing. If they miss a note on their guitar, they just keep playing. If in baseball they drop the ball, well, they don't beat themselves up over it for the remainder of the game. They've got to get back in and keep playing because there's all those extra innings, right? We are in a time where we need to pay great attention to our surroundings and what's going on, because in a lot of ways we are building on sand right now. We are building on sand. We cannot keep seeking a solid foundation because there's just not going to be one for a while. And so we will, by our very nature, stumble as we kind of put out there what we need to do next. Now, everyone's got different circumstances. Some people are just home. Some people are just doing their thing from home, and they're never going to need anything different than as long as they can get to their appointments and their services. Other people have just lost a significant amount of their business. Still others have lost everything, and they're having to start again. And this time is a swirling bucket of chaos. We are all building on sand. And so again, that quote from Anthony Kiedis from the song Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, complete the motion if you stumble, is going to be an important mantra. We talked about mantras the other day. It's going to be an important mantra for what we do rolling forward. We're going to just have to keep going. The same person I just interviewed that made me a little late to today's video, Rasati, she lives in Singapore. So my last night was her this morning. And last night at, I think it was 9 p.m. my time, I went on to do the interview with her. So I had a glass of wine with me. Talk about a stumble. Just as we finished the entire interview, I'm looking over here because she wanted to do it on Instagram Live. So my phone was the device for this call. So I had my phone perched. I'll show you. Do not knock anything over. I have another camera stand here. The camera, is like this. I tilted the camera up like this, and so it made sort of a triangle enough that I could put my camera on it in a not bad way. So it was very precarious. So if I didn't touch anything, everything was fine. So when she says, okay, goodbye, it says, your video has ended. I reached over to touch it, and as I did, the phone fell straight down, hit the wine glass. Thank the sweet little baby Buddha it didn't break it, but shot a whole pile of Merlot in all directions, mostly on a shirt and also in my lap. So the shirt was ruined. And I basically cleaned it all up, cleaned all the red wine. I keep finding small drops of it places that I didn't know. Like it was pooled under my little ladybug timer, and somehow I moved everything but my ladybug timer, I guess. So, but I just kept going. I just did the things I needed to do. So that's what we're all needing. We need to understand that stumbling, failing, falling is all part of everything that's coming right now. And that's just it. Like, it just is going to be that way. We are going to stumble. So we have to complete the motion if we stumble. That was the whole start of it. And the fact that we're building on sand. When I went to the United Arab Emirates a bunch of years ago, I don't remember when, 2014 or 15, I think it was. When I went to the United Arab Emirates, it was interesting to find that their nation had only really been around about as long as I was alive. And the reason it happened that way was that because before that time, the people who lived there were all Bedouins. They were all nomadic tribes people. And so they would just set their tents wherever they wanted their tents. They would have sort of trade crossroads and things like that. but it was a very nomadic society. But what happened is, as they started to want to do commerce with the outside world, they had to come to the realization that people couldn't abide that notion of impermanence. They couldn't stand the idea of having to figure out where the camp was that day to do business. They just wanted to go where the people were expected to be. They wanted object permanence. This is the opposite of that right now. There's a lack of object permanence in the world right now, and we have to shift our brains to say, this isn't solid. There is not solid ground right now. This is okay. We can walk on sand. We can even sleep on sand, and we can build something on sand, but it's not going to be solid for a while. And so in that comes a lot of opportunity. In that comes the chance to feel a little bit better about yourself. It allows you to kind of understand some of your anxiety, and it gives you the opportunity to maybe put a little distance between that anxiety, right? Because you could say, I'm feeling this feeling right now, and I'm not happy that I'm feeling this feeling. I feel so anxious because why can't everything get back to normal? Nothing goes back, period. Things will change again. Things will change forward again, but nothing will go back. Think of all the change that's happened to business. So many food establishments had nothing like a vibrant carryout service. If I'm a restaurant owner, I'm going to look at the economics of what I'm making and losing, and look at the fact that having that big physical restaurant closed all this time, I could still make reasonably the numbers I was making before. Why isn't that going to drive more people to not bother having the actual dine-in experience? You feel in part of your belly that you need it, but most of us don't. Most of us don't care. Sure, we like the feeling of our favorite place, but so many other times we just want the food in our belly and the people that we're with, right? That's all that matters. We could do that anywhere. Lincoln just shared a really awesome car commercial saying, you can just buy the car over the web and we'll just drive it to your driveway for you, and we'll just hand you this one folder and get out of your hair. That's how I bought my car 10 years ago. In 2010, I bought it from a virtual dealership called Motorphilia, and it was like the future in 2010. And you know who else offered that service in 2010? 0 other people. You know why suddenly you can buy that? By the way, think about this for a minute. Car dealerships are a franchise system that runs separately from the car company. Lincoln just decided we don't necessarily need our dealership, although they can't say that in the commercial. They said, you know, we'll just let you come get the car, right? You could just order it on the web and we'll drive it to you. That'd save them gazillions of dollars in fees. Things are going to change. Things cannot go, quote, back to where they came from, quote, will not happen. The stream goes in one way as far as we can understand. When you figure out time travel, you let me know last year, okay? That's all I can tell you about that. But what we have to do instead is just say, okay, if this is today, then what is this? If this is now, then what is this? And stop worrying about you can't plan. Stop worrying about that you can't set an anchor somewhere. My next book is called The Backpack because of this. My book is called The Backpack because if you just had the stuff in a backpack, what would life look like then? You know, you don't have a permanency. You have to basically go out into the world and find pickup games of life and business and understand how that's going to work. And I think that when we look at this, when we look at where it's going, we're going to be very impermanent for some time to come. Now, some people are just going to settle back into a regular job. Some people never left their regular job. But a lot of us are going to have to find new ways to deliver the services we do, to create the products we want to create, and make it all happen. Tom points out, by the way, that he wants to time travel. I think we all do. And I think we all want to go back and try to tell ourselves some life lesson. But you know what I feel like is that every day that I move forward, there's a new lesson. Speaking of which, tomorrow, April 8th, I turn 50. Half a century tomorrow, which is weird because my mom's 44. So I don't understand how she has a 50-year-old kid. Maybe she's figured out time travel. But yeah, half a century. So I would tell you this, that I think what I would tell anybody in some kind of a time capsule way about what to learn is I would tell you that the thing that saved me the most in life is being so willing to fall, being so willing to just stand up again. So thank you, Tom. So willing to stumble and still try to complete the motion. I don't ever have to be perfect. I am the most imperfect person in the world. I shave my head like this for the apocalypse. My little brother has had this same hairstyle for maybe 30 years. My brother is my, Star Trek when they have the goatee and they have the evil twin brother or whatever of Kirk. My brother is the opposite of me professionally in every way you could think of. He's had the same job for as long as he's been alive. He is very risk averse, etc. And we had the most heartfelt conversation we've ever had. I haven't talked to my brother more than once a year, I think, for I don't know how many years, but we had this amazing heartfelt conversation. And in it, I was sort of explaining what my world looked like right now and what it's like, all the chaos and how you have to kind of scramble to find your new revenue and all that sort of thing. I could tell he was getting queasy just imagining not knowing where revenue comes from. But what I've learned is it's coming from somewhere and it will come from somewhere and we'll get it. And revenue comes from being helpful. And that is important. Don't worry about your job. Worry about work. Job is just a unit of measurement. Work is what needs doing. And in these times, every part of that is going to be somewhat imperfect. You are going to be imperfect. You're going to be a little bit dented by all the emotions and feelings you're having. I have anxiety now. So I have a very minor case of major clinical depression. And I also have when you get clinical depression, you get free with it, a side order of anxiety. But I don't have a lot of anxiety attacks, usually maybe a couple a year. But I have come to find out that every single time I walk out the door, ever since this has started, I feel a massive starting squeeze on my chest. I get an anxiety attack, a mild one, but I feel it. And when I go to a grocery store, my grocery store is very small. It looks like the 1960s. The health board has said there's only 5 or 6 people allowed in it at a time, 5 people allowed in it at a time. And before that, I was feeling like, oh my gosh, we're all crammed into a small space. This is the end. This is how I die, buying some maraschino cherries or something, And so I was thinking olives as I said that. I said maraschino cherries and was thinking olives. I was thinking about the red pimento. How funny. But what it has taught me, what anxiety attacks even have taught me, is what we need to do right now is all those things. I'm going to sum it up one more time and then I'm hanging up. Complete the motion if you stumble. Realize that we can't go back. We are building on sand for some duration of time. Nothing will be permanent for some duration of time. And breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. It is so, so, so important. I'm going to let you go, but I want to read what Jay had to say because Jay wrote something. I was trying to find the Bob Lutz article from a few years ago when he slammed Tesla for not having dealers and selling direct to customers. Can't find it, but the line was something like, cars aren't like iPhones. You can't sell them in the same way. No, you absolutely 100,000% can sell cars over the web. I did it. And there was no turmoil in it. Oh, thanks, Jay. There was no turmoil at all in buying a car over the web. You know what you want. You know the things. You've seen the commercials. You can look up the stats just like anyone. What's a dealer going to do? The dealer is going to say whatever things you just read anyway. Like it's literally as easy as having someone read alongside you. When you go out for the test drive, what are they going to say? Really good, huh? Right? Like it's not. If you look at some of the parts of business that we have, they exist because we think they have to exist. I saw a tweet. This is a somewhat political tweet. I saw a tweet saying, "What? You mean insurance companies are basically just there to take money out of the middle of a situation that the government could have worked directly with the health provider system directly, and we didn't have to have this weird bureaucracy and money sucking of the insurance industry?" Now, by the way, if you work in the insurance industry, I know you'll never call me back again, but I know that the whole scenario is just to understand that things will change. We all will change. Object permanence doesn't happen. You can never go back. Complete the motion if you stumble. Merry Christmas via Conquesos. I love you. Talk to you soon.